Good morning, everybody. This is Mike from the Last Corvette. Today is Thursday. Today is January 16th, and I'm currently on M59 driving to the office. It's 17 outside. It is lightly snowing, and this is a perfect setting, minus the lighting, to go over fuel efficiency, fuel economy of this 2024 Ford F-150. When it comes to the winter months, right? So what am I seeing as far as MPGs? What am I seeing as far as total miles driven on a full tank? That's gas and electric combined. Obviously, this is a Powerboost, so this is a hybrid 2024 Super Crew four-wheel drive truck. Now, I've made videos when I first got the truck. The weather was still good, 60s, 70s, even touching 80s, and I went on several trips to northern Michigan, showed you guys that I got well over 25 miles to a gallon on cruise control. I could have got a lot better, let's say a lot better, but probably close to 26 if I was to go, 70 miles an hour on cruise control versus constantly, going between 70 and 75, and essentially 70% of the time was 75, even over 75 on cruise control. And then, of course, I did a couple of videos about mixed driving, and I said this truck really shines when you get off the highway, because normally, as I once again said before, bigger SUVs, trucks, they fall flat on their face once you get off the highway, right? You're not in the higher gear, you're not at a constant speed, and essentially you lose your MPGs, your fuel efficiency kind of tanks. This truck essentially gets the same MPGs on or off the highway, right? You use about 25 to 28% electric compared to the entire, we'll say miles driven. So 25 or 28% is spent in electric, and most of that comes off the highway, right? So that's awesome, but how does it do during the winter months? Well, we're approaching a week where it's going to be in single digits, in the negatives at night, and in single digits, during the day, right? That's going to be the high. But it's been very, very cold for the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and I've put a lot of miles on this truck. I drive it a lot, right? So I'm able to kind of give you guys a breakdown. So let's start with pre-winter. As far as total miles traveled, combined electric and gas, right? Once again, this is a 3.5 essentially Eco Boost V6 engine in the front, 30-gallon tank, and then I have a electric motor and a lithium-ion battery that all work together. We all know that obviously full-on EVs, electric vehicles, cars, trucks, right? They do suffer from, we'll say battery performance during the colder months. You're just, it's a nature of the beast. You don't get the full range, right? Or the full capacity out of your battery pack. And that's true. And the same thing goes for a hybrid. It's same lithium-ion battery, essentially very similar setup, except I have a engine/generator to, basically put power back to the battery. And this is also a regen truck, so I'm using brakes. And anytime you use brakes, you're putting power, otherwise, lost back into the battery pack. So on a full tank pre-winter, I used to get around 602, 605 miles to a tank, which is very, very good. Of course, 25 or 28% of that was spent full electric. That's where that makeup comes in. If you were just to kind of remove the 25 or 28% electric portion of it, you would be staring right at a normal 3.5 high output, EcoBoost, right? So you're looking at 14.4 average, mixed driving, and then close to 20, depending on the conditions, 19 or so on the highway. So you're making that up by using electric and having the Powerboost option that I wanted. So those numbers are not bad. Now, if you look at winter conditions, I mean, one of the key differences between, summer, early fall, we'll say mid-spring, late spring is I'm using the remote start a lot. And I'll explain a little bit later how the remote start works on this truck, on this hybrid truck. But essentially, I'm still running the engine at least twice a day. So I'll wake up in the morning, I'll have a cup of coffee before I jump in the shower, I'll remote start the vehicle, and I'll run it for 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'll do the same thing when I leave the office, because nobody wants to obviously just jump into a ice box or a cold vehicle. So of course, if you think about, the big picture, you're running the engine and your engine is consuming gasoline, right? You're using up the fuel in your fuel tank. Now, going back to the remote start on this hybrid Powerboost, so this truck always starts up or powers up in hybrid, so the engine doesn't kick on. And same thing goes for a remote start regardless of the temperature outside. And then what it does an assessment, right? The engine is cold, the vehicle is cold, and it will start the engine. And the engine will run until it gets to a certain set temperature, whatever you have it, set in the vehicle. It'll shut off and it will stay in hybrid. So your heat doesn't shut off, nothing shuts off, the engine shuts off, and it stays in hybrid mode. And then once it gets to, a certain level of the battery charge level, it'll turn the engine back on, it'll recharge the battery, and that cycle repeats. So yes, the engine is not running all the time, but still, if you take, 10 minutes times 2, right? 20 minutes a day times 5. That's a lot of idle time or run time during the winter months because of the temperatures. In the summertime, you might start it for a few minutes and, jump in the vehicle and take off. And then, by the time you start driving, you can crack a couple of windows open and your AC is already at full blast. So that's the big difference, right? So a lot of the loss comes from the remote start, essentially. Now, as far as the real numbers, I'm losing about 100 miles or so, as far as total miles traveled. So instead of 600, I'm looking at around 500 miles on a full tank, give or take. It all depends on the conditions. It all depends, on the infrastructure. And by infrastructure, I mean, right, I'm running heated seats all the time. I am using the blower on the high setting. I'm using the heat on the high setting. And currently, right now, I'm driving and I'm creeping down this snow-covered expressway. And yes, the vehicle is still in electric mode, but it does not stay in electric mode for a long period of time because it's a lithium-ion battery, and it's 16 outside, right? So yes, your output is not the same compared to summer months. Now, when it comes to MPGs, if you're looking for a Powerboost, 2024, 2023, whatever, your MPGs, my average MPG is about 20 and a half. So there's a significant drop. I've seen 21, but that's on those mild days or mild weeks during the winter. But when it gets into single digits, you'll be seeing around 20 miles per gallon, and pretty much the same when it comes to the expressway, maybe a little bit better. So yeah, essentially you're losing 100 miles total as far as your 30-gallon tank, as far as your battery working together. And then you're losing about 3.5 to 3 miles per gallon in these conditions. And that's expected. That is expected because this truck makes up its fuel efficiency through the Powerboost or the hybrid option, right, that you have in this truck. So just like a full-on EV, we hear on the news, we see, on the internet articles that yes, they do suffer, your range will diminish. Considering this truck is still gas, right? So even if my battery pack is, super cold, it's having issues keeping up, on the highway or off the highway, I still have a 3.5 V6, with well over 400 horse and 570 foot-pounds of torque, and a 30-gallon tank. So I still have all of that regardless of the conditions, and that's the main reason why I bought this truck. This truck is still amazing when it comes to just a to B vehicle, everyday vehicle. towing, your off-road capabilities. Yes, this is not a Tremor, this is not a Raptor, but still this truck is very, very capable, and it's a perfect package. And how I'm going to end this video is this: we're going to talk about in the next video about the 2025 current model year of the F-150 and the changes. And I'm an automotive industry, so we hear, we see, we know what's coming to a certain extent. Obviously, none of the fine details are ever released to the suppliers. That's just not how it works. But we know the trend, and I'll explain that later, because there's been so many videos about the 25 F-150 and how there's certain options that are missing, or certain options that are now used to be standard. Now they're basically optioned, either when you're building the truck or when you're adding on those options at a later date through the dealership. So we'll talk about that point exact. And then of course in 2027, 2028, there's going to be a complete purge of these older generation trucks. Like this F-150 has been around since 2020, but essentially this truck's been around since 2015 as far as the body and overall engines, right? Because nothing really changed. Yes, in 2024 they did another facelift, right? Interior, exterior, and that's going to remain through 2027 or first part of 2028 model year. Not only for Ford, but you got GM, Chevy. They're all coming out with new pickup trucks. I'm not really sure about Stellantis, what they're doing, but I'm assuming they're also going to refresh their Dodge Ram. They have to, because their sales are dropping. So stay tuned. Hopefully this helps if you're looking to purchase a new truck, F-150 Powerboost truck, or if you're looking to purchase a used one. I think this is a great video to kind of give you guys an idea of what to expect during the warmer months and colder months out of this Powerboost. Talk to you guys later, and of course comment below and subscribe.